What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to break down a new article that just came out in our local news station. I like doing these article reviews because I get a chance to comment on what other people are saying and what I'm seeing in the market versus what this, kind of journalistic approach is taking and what they're saying about the market itself. So we're going to review this article here together. I'm going to add some commentary along the way. We're going to walk through this and we'll just share our thoughts. So without further ado, let's just jump right into this. So This is titled, "In the Wake of the 2020 Feeding Frenzy, Utah Home Sales Slow in What May Be the Calm Before a Potential Storm." Interesting title. The latest housing data shows the median priced home in Utah's most populated county increased to $550,000 in the third quarter of 2021. Now, that's going to be probably single family homes because the median for all homes across the board, condos, townhomes, and single family homes is actually closer to about 450, somewhere between 4 and 450. I can't remember off the top of my head, but 550 is very high, so that's just single family homes. That's a new high and a 28% jump from the median price of $430,000 in the same time period from 2020. That means Salt Lake County homebuyers paid an average of $120,000 more than they did a year ago, according to the Salt Lake Board of Realtors. But the number of home sales has plummeted by double-digit percentages. In the third quarter of 2021, there were 11,033 homes of all housing types sold across the Wasatch Front, 18% less than the 13,374 homes sold in the third quarter of 2020, according to the Salt Lake Board of Realtors. I think this is partially because there was more buyers at that time and there was a lot of stress in the market, and so people were just buying up anything that they could. Inventory was very low, but inventory is still low today, and I think that's causing a lot of people to sit on the sidelines and not be able to buy a home just because it doesn't look like there's really anything out there, and things are so much more expensive now that for a lot of people it can be kind of hard to stomach those higher prices compared to the value that you're getting. So when you really look at this, I think personally there's a lot of people who would like to buy if they could just find something that made sense for them and they could jump into the market right now. This indicates Utah's market has stabilized from the big feeding frenzy of 2020, said Matt Ulrich, president of the Salt Lake Board of Realtors. For buyers, for sellers, for agents, it was just nuts. It was chaos, Ulrich said of 2020. Now it's normalizing, it's stabilizing, but we're still going to have a record-setting year for sales. This is true. I saw a lot of chaos in real estate over the last 12 to 18 months. I would actually say this past spring was probably the craziest I've ever seen it. People just absolutely going nuts for any single home that came up. From March until June, it was absolute chaos in the market. I think it was actually worse than what we saw in 2020. So, for what it's worth, things have definitely slowed down, which is good. I think it's actually good for the market overall. The year 2021 is still pacing to be the number 2 best year for the Wasatch Front home sales, second only to 2020 when the COVID pandemic threw the national housing market, particularly in the West in states like Idaho and Utah, into upheaval as many Americans reevaluated their lives and moved out of big, expensive cities in search of homes with more space at lower price points. This is super true. I almost exclusively work with people who are relocating in from out of the state here to Utah, and that's exactly what they're looking for. They're looking for a bigger house. They're looking for more bang for their buck and just a different type of lifestyle. So most of the people I work with are coming from out of state. And on that note, if you're making that move here to Salt Lake City or any of the surrounding areas, make sure to reach out to me. I've had people from all across the world reach out, and I absolutely love it when they do so. My information will be here on the screen. Feel free to call, text, or email anytime. I'd be happy to have a chat with you about the type of home and lifestyle that you're looking for in your move here to Utah. In 2021, Ulrich said realtors are still seeing multiple offers on homes. Maybe we're not seeing 20 to 30 offers per home, but we're still seeing a handful. Prices are still increasing. We just need more inventory. Ulrich called the market of 2021 more maintainable than 2020's. Nobody wants to see prices going up 25%. He noted some buyers are continuing to sit on the sideline with hopes that prices will eventually drop, but experts don't see that happening anytime soon. Rather, Ulrich said he sees today's market as a calm before a potential storm. We're going to get to that here in just a second, but I want to, before we move on to the next point, I'm kind of in that same boat. I don't see prices dropping anytime soon. I don't think there's any major reason why prices would drop here in Utah because of how much demand we have and how little inventory there is in the market. Yes, there's going to be home sales that happen, and if we saw prices kind of level out, I think that would actually be a pretty big deal. If we saw prices go down even just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%, that would be a massive deal, and there would be a lot of factors at play that are causing that to happen. For me, at this point, I just don't see that happening. I think real estate in Utah right now, at least for the next couple of years, is going to be a very strong investment. Moving on to his point, once interest rates begin to rise, which some experts have said may happen at the end of the year, though there are no guarantees, Ulrich said that it's going to be another crazy market. I'm not necessarily looking forward to it. That storm, Ulrich said, could be another frenzy. After interest rates look like they're taking a turn, prices likely won't come down enough to offset the rates. So it's just going to get more expensive. What he's basically meaning by this is that as interest rates go up, typically the home prices would come down to match what the actual monthly payment is. Because if your interest rate is higher, your monthly payment is then going to be higher. And so that home price theoretically has to come down in order to be a more affordable number, where you might have a $3,000 payment here, but if interest rates go up, then the home price has to come down to keep your payment at that $3,000 mark. So that's basically what he's talking about here. I don't know that that's necessarily going to happen. I think that if interest rates start to go up, I think this is only going to slow down the market because there's going to be less people who are jumping into the market. If somebody's able to afford a $700,000 home, but then interest rates start climbing and now they can only afford $650 or $600, I think they're just going to be priced out. They're going to be looking at homes at $700 and think, oh yeah, okay, we're looking for something. But as soon as they get pushed out and they can only afford $650 or $600, this is going to put them in a really tight spot where they just don't feel like they're getting that value. And I think this will actually slow down the market a little bit more than most other people think or will realize. When interest rates start creeping up, then you're going to see people wanting to cash in to get a good interest rate before it's gone. I think this is true. I think if people see interest rates creeping up, they might be more willing to pull the trigger. But from my experience, most people who go out there and are shopping are kind of just like, hey, the interest rates are what they are. Not a lot of people are really concerned about interest rates. They're not watching interest rates every single day. They're not, in a position where they're that savvy that they're really looking at it. And typically interest rates will kind of rise over a slower period of time. It's not like they're going to go from 3.5% to 4% within just a couple of days. And so people will think, oh, I need to hurry and pull the trigger. This is going to be kind of a slower process. So I don't know. I think there will be people who jump into the market, but I don't think most people are actually looking at this. All right, now moving on in the article here, the priciest Wasatch Front zip codes. In 2021's third quarter, the zip code with the highest median sales price was 84004, home to Alpine, a Utah County suburb set in the foothills east of the point of the mountain, known for its large lots and massive homes. That's very true. There are a lot of large lots there and massive homes in the area. The top 10 priciest zip codes single-family median sales price ranked in the third quarter of 2021, according to the Salt Lake Board of Realtors. Alpine, $1.05 million. Emigration Canyon, $830,000. Draper, The Avenue, Sandy, Eden, Holiday, Mill Creek Canyon, South Jordan, and Holiday. So I think this information is good to have, but I don't know how crucial it is. It's just kind of interesting information knowing that, hey, we've got Alpine here with a at least this zip code, 84004, has a median price of just over $1 million. Let's move on down here and take a look at this. Salt Lake ranks as one of the nation's least affordable metros. Now, this is really surprising information and it's honestly kind of unfortunate because it used to be not that long ago, just a couple of years ago, Salt Lake was really affordable. It was really a affordable market to be in. The cost of living here in Utah is actually a little bit lower than you would find in the rest of the nation. As far as like utilities and groceries and gas and things like that, the cost of living was slightly lower. Maybe not for housing. Housing is drastically more expensive now, especially because of everything that's happened compared to a lot of other areas. But the cost of living overall was lower until just recently. So it says now Salt Lake City is the 10th least affordable metro area in the nation for housing, according to new research released this week by Real Estate Witch, which is owned by the real estate site Clever Real Estate. This is pretty interesting. 10th least affordable. It looks like there's only, out of this list right here. I don't know if this is talking about the top 10, but you can see that, like, obviously the West Coast and the East Coast is very expensive. And then you've got Utah, which is also very expensive here, kind of right there in the Midwest. The site found Salt Lake City had an average home price of $485,813 in 2021 compared to an average household income of $92,900 and a house price to income ratio of 5.2. The average ratio experts recommend, according to Clever Real Estate, is 2.6. Now, this is interesting because we are almost double. Actually, that is exactly double what they recommend. I don't know many areas other than the Midwest where most people, at least on a median basis, are going to achieve that average ratio of 2.6. I just don't think that's something that's actually realistic. Yes, would it be great for people? Yeah, it would be. If you could make $100,000 a year and only buy a $260,000 house, yeah, that would be phenomenal. But that doesn't take into account other things like homeowners insurance, which is going to be lower on average here in Utah, and also the property taxes, right? The taxes that we have here in Utah are drastically lower than what you find in California or Chicago or Ohio. Cities and states like that have a much higher property tax. So that's going to affect how the prices increase over time and what the actual, what you're getting for your money depending on how much you pay. So when it comes to this, having a average ratio that experts recommend of 2.6, I think that's a little bit unrealistic. I'm not saying that Utah is, is high at 5.2. I'm not saying that this is something that we should, would hopefully come down, right? Hopefully wages go up or prices go down. I'm not saying that's necessarily the case, but I think trying to achieve like 2.6 is just a little bit unrealistic. If you could get somewhere between like 3.5 and 4, that'd be a little bit better. The report said only 6 of the 50 most populated metro areas in the U.S. have a house price to income ratio lower than or equal to the maximum recommended ratio. Yeah, so only 6 of the 50 have that ratio. You've got Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Cleveland, Oklahoma City, St. Louis, Missouri, Cincinnati, Ohio, and Birmingham, Alabama. Record-breaking home value increases do have a bright side. Fewer Americans are underwater in their mortgages. Across the nation, the percentage of homes with underwater mortgages decreased by 54% in the most populous metro areas, from an average of 12.2% to 5.6%. The Salt Lake City metro saw the biggest decrease in underwater mortgages in the nation. This is pretty interesting. A jaw-dropping 1,081% decrease from 18.5% in 2015 to 1.6% in 2020, according to the report. That's compared to the metro with the second largest decrease, Las Vegas, which dropped 513% from 21% to 3.4%. So this is almost double what we saw happen in Las Vegas. So that's pretty interesting there that Utah or Salt Lake City saw this biggest decrease. However, there is a dark side to these figures. These same homeowners could be poised for disaster in the next housing crash. The Real Estate Witch report says this is especially troubling for people who bought homes during the pandemic because they've had the least amount of time to pay back their mortgage. In Utah, experts continue to say they do not see a bubble waiting to pop on the state housing market's horizon, though they do warn of a severely imbalanced housing market, especially when it comes to affordability. Now, more than half of Utah's households are unable to afford the state's median priced home, according to this report. So this is kind of interesting, guys. I want to go back to this little line right here. These homeowners could be poised for disaster just because they haven't owned their home long enough. The thing that always is important to remember when it comes to making your mortgage payment and being underwater is you don't have to sell your home, right? If you owe $500,000 on your house and maybe it's worth $550 today, well, if the market starts to decline, maybe your house goes from $550 to $525 to $500 to maybe even $450, right? To where you're underwater on your house. Well, you don't have to sell the home unless, of course, you can't make your payments, right? So that's the important thing to remember, is that if you can make your payments, being underwater or having a small amount of equity is not necessarily the end of the world. So just be careful with information like this, because I think that's a little bit of fear mongering. People saying, oh, they could be poised for disaster and stuff. Well, I mean, you could be poised for disaster if you lost your job today and couldn't make your payments, even if you have a ton of equity. It's one of those things you have to take into account. You could still be in a really bad spot if you lose your job and can't make your payments, even if you have a ton of equity. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit easier to get out of the house, but that's going to be the case no matter what, whether the market's up, whether it's down, good, bad, doesn't matter. So with all that said, guys, thanks for watching. I know this is a longer video. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed my commentary about this along the way. If you're thinking about making that move here to Salt Lake City, make sure to reach out to me, call, text, or email anytime. I absolutely love it when that happens. My information will be here on the screen. I'd love to hear from you about the type of home and lifestyle that you're looking to have when you make that move here to Utah. Share this information in this video with a friend or family member who's also interested in this. And with that said, catch you in the next one.